What's up guys, welcome to the channel. Today I have a must-have modification if you guys have a 3rd gen Tacoma, a 5th gen 4Runner, or a 2014 to 2021 Toyota Tundra. So in this video we are going to be showing you guys how to install the anytime camera. With this modification you guys are going to be able to use your camera anytime you guys want while driving, towing, off-road, or anything like that. So let's go ahead and get started. Here we are going to find about 21 millimeters from the edge of the Pro Grille, and you guys will want to find the center right above your TSS. And if you don't have your TSS, it'll be the exact same piece except not clear like this one. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure from this corner to this corner, and that's going to equal 6 inches exactly. So right in the middle we made a mark right there at 3 inches. And we already had our measurement here, so we're going to put a center punch on that mark and then punch it, and then we'll drill through there. The drill bit size that you guys will need is a 5/16 drill bit. You guys will need some kind of angled drill like this to drill up into it, and then once you guys have it on your center punch hole, you can go ahead and start drilling. On the back side of the grill here, you guys see we placed a nut there where the nut on the top of the camera would need to be. So it is going to hit this part right here, so we'll show you guys how to trim that. So the tool we're going to be using is this bit right here. This is a carbide bit. You can pretty much use any bit that is abrasive, that way we can grind away that plastic piece. So this is what it will look like after you guys have used that bit. Now that nut can be used to tighten the camera properly. Now go ahead and feed your camera wire through the hole and pull the camera all the way up. This is what it will look like once you have pulled the camera all the way up. Now we can go ahead and feed the nut through the wire on the other end, just like so, all the way to the grill. And then we'll use that nut to tighten the camera to hold it in place. Once you have that nut fully tightened, this is what the camera will look like fully seated. And as you can see here, this is the reason why we measured as far in as we did. The next step here, we are going to run the wires all the way over to the driver's side here. So what we're going to do, we are going to follow the TSS harness you see right here. We're going to go over, up right here, and then all the way through the headlight. So this is what it will look like once you guys have it fully zip tied to the TSS harness, running all the way over to the headlight. Next up, you will need a really long screwdriver, and what we are doing now is we are taping the wires from the camera to the long screwdriver. That way we can use this to poke through to the inside. Next up, look for the brake master cylinder, and right below that, to the right of it, you guys will see the rubber grommet. What we need to do is use the long screwdriver to poke through and feed the wires inside. On the inside, you guys should find the long screwdriver poking through with the wires. From here, you can go ahead and take off the tape. In your user manual with the camera, you guys will have this long red wire, which you guys will not need, so go ahead and snip that off. Now what we've done is we ran it through under this plastic piece here. And then now, once we are right next to the headlight, we can go ahead and plug it in with the camera we installed earlier. Next up, go back inside, and what we need to do is pull off this panel next to the steering wheel. With one hand, tuck it into the right side of the panel, then pull gently directly towards the back, and these little red clips are the only thing that is holding this panel in place, so it'll come off super easy. And the reason why we are pulling this panel off is because we need to run the wires up through here behind the steering wheel all the way to the radio. Now we are ready to pull off the radio. The radio comes off super easy. You just need to grab it from one side, give it a nice tug, and do the same to the other. Same thing with this one, just the red clips that hold it in place. Next up, we need to pull this part next to the steering wheel here. Just grab it like you did on the other side and give it a nice pull. It is held in by the same red clips, And then on the very bottom, we'll do the same. We'll basically pull this part all the way down so we have easier access. Next up, we need to take off the 4 10mm bolts on the head unit. There's going to be 2 on each side. Then lift the head unit a little bit, and then we're going to tug on the bottom part of the radio here where the climate control are. It's going to be the same red clips on the back side, so super easy to take off. Then go ahead and unplug all of the connectors on the back side of it. You guys will need some kind of rack to protect the head unit. Pull the head unit out and just rest it down. You can kind of see there the face of the head unit will rest on the shift knob. So once we have access to the back side of the radio here, we're going to need to pull this connector here. That's going to be on the top, pretty much in the middle. So pull that out, grab the jumper cable. We're going to plug the jumper into that and then plug the factory connector to that jumper cable. This one's going to have this bundle of wire here with the red and orange wires coming out of it. Next, we're going to pull this connector right next to it. We'll plug that. We'll pull that off, plug in the other jumper cable, and then plug the factory connector to that. And that one will have the video connectors coming out of it. Next up, we will need the switching relay, and on the end of that would be a black and a green wire, and then all the video wire or connectors on that. So we will need to find the female with the black mark on it. We'll plug that to the male that is coming out of the jumper harness, and then on the other jumper harness is going to be a female connector. Plug that to the only male connector on the switching relay, and then you will be left with a single female connector. That one is going to connect to the video connector that's coming from the camera. Back on the driver's side here, you guys will need the front camera RCA wires, feed it up through this panel that we pulled off here, and then from here we need to go over, basically underneath the steering wheel, over to the other panel that I showed you guys earlier. The front camera RCA wire will come through under the steering wheel to this side here, and then you guys will want to feed it behind the column right here underneath the vent on the right side of the steering wheel. Basically what we're trying to do is get it all the way up here where it'll come out and connect to the back side of the head unit. Once you have the front camera RCA connector over here behind the head unit, you can go ahead and pull the rest of the wire through. And then from here, you can go ahead and grab the female on the switching relay and connect it to the front camera RCA connector. So now is going to be the most difficult part for somebody who doesn't really know how to wire much, like myself. So this is the switch that we're going to be using. We just plugged it in to show you guys where it's going to go to, so we'll disconnect that for now. But now it's time to explain all these wires. So the blue and the gray wire we're not going to use in this application. So what you're left with is going to be a black wire, a green wire, an orange wire, and a red wire. We're going to show you guys where to connect each one. So the one thing that doesn't come in the kit is going to be these guys here, but if you guys do purchase from us at runningfortacos.com, we will include this in the kit for you guys just to make install easier. So what we're doing here is we are stripping the insulation down or out a little bit more. These wires are super thin, so what we're doing is we're twisting it and we're going to fold it into itself so that way we can have more wire that we can use when we actually put it in the butt connectors. So we'll put that into the butt connector, and then using a pair of crimpers we will crimp it down. And then once we have everything connected, these have the heat shrink at the end of them, so you'll be able to heat shrink them, and then there's adhesive on the inside so it'll glue to the actual wires. So the wires that we're going to show you guys first is going to be the red and the orange wires from the switch connector. So we have that stripped, and then we just showed you guys the butt connectors that we crimped on the other side. So we'll feed the orange and the red wires to the same butt connectors that is red and orange, and then we will connect them together like this. Next up here we have the switching relay. There is a green wire coming off of that, and then on the RCA connector for the front camera there is a red wire coming off of that. We're going to strip those back a little bit and then twist those together. Once you have those twisted together, go ahead and feed it into your butt connector and then crimp it down. Now that you have the green and the red off the front camera RCA connected together, grab the green wire from the switch, and then we're going to strip that back, and then we're going to connect that to the butt connector that has the other green and red wires. Next up, we're going to grab the two black wires. We're going to strip those back. The black wire that's going to be connected to the switch harness, and then the other black wire is going to be on the switching relay. Once we have those stripped back, we're going to twist those together. Then we're going to connect our ring terminal to that, and then we're going to crimp those two wires together with the ring terminal. Now that we have all of the wires connected that we need to, excluding the blue and gray on the switch connector, now we can go ahead and heat shrink all of this so that way it has a nice seal. So you can either use a heat gun, or something like this is just a mini torch that you could shrink the heat shrink together and activate the adhesive. Then go ahead and do the same to all of the other connectors. So we moved the head unit up a little bit just so we can show you guys where we're going to be grounding those two black wires. So behind here you see that bolt right there. We're going to put the ring terminal right behind that so that way it has a nice ground contact. So we got that ground installed just so we can test everything before we reinstall the head unit and everything back together and clean everything up. Now we can go ahead and plug in the switch just so we can test it out. We will also need to plug in at least the start button just so we can turn it on and test the camera out. So we'll go ahead and click it. That way we can get some power to it. Then we can flip the switch on the camera to see if it's working. So as you can see here, it's working. That's the front, and that is the rear. So now that we have verified that it works, we can go ahead and unplug this and clean up all the wiring back here. Now that we have verified that it works, take the switch out, and then you can go ahead and take the bolt with the ground out as well. Then we can put the head unit back down on the rag just so we can clean up all the wiring back here. So this is what it'll kind of look like once you guys have it cleaned up. We just used two zip ties, bundled everything together. We left some slack on the actual switch connector so that way it can run down here where we need to plug it in. But feed that down behind the radio and then reach underneath and pull it through on the bottom side just so you can have that ready to install down under. Then go ahead and feed that bundle of wire you guys just cleaned up, and then push the head unit back in place. Line it up with the factory holes. Once you guys have everything lined up, go ahead and reinstall the 4 10mm bolts that are holding the head unit on. Once you have your head unit reinstalled, go ahead and put that ground back on that bolt hole that we showed you guys earlier with the ring terminal. So on this vehicle, we don't have any blank small switches left. So what we're going to do is we're going to unplug the Qi charger that is used for this area here. We're going to unplug it like we mentioned, and then push the connector back, and then we'll reach back here, pull that connector up, we'll replug the switch to that, and then we're going to keep it on so that way if we ever need to use it, we can still use it. Then we'll grab the harness for the camera switch, feed it down through the hole that we just chose, and then we'll connect our new front and rear camera button, and we'll push it into place. And then you guys can see here it's fully seated, and it looks factory as well, and the toggle up and down works. Then go ahead and grab this panel here and reconnect all the connectors on the back side of it. Once you have the connectors plugged back in, you can then reinstall this panel, and you will hear all the clips from those red clips clip into place. Once you have this climate control panel back, you can reinstall the panel that is surrounding the head unit. And once again, same red clips, so you just line it up and push it in, and you'll hear it all clip into place. And then you'll be left with some excess wire from the front RCA camera. So what we need to do is just bundle that up. Once you have it all bundled up, go ahead and zip tie it together. And then there's going to be this harness back here that we're going to zip tie that bundle to. That way it's not going to move or vibrate when we drive. Then just snip off the ends of those zip ties. Now we can reinstall the right side of the steering wheel panel back, the bottom portion, and then work our way over to the left side panel. If you guys have any clips that fell out, take it out of the hole that it was in, feed it back onto the clip side, and then feed it back into place. Back under the engine here, you guys will find these wires here. We will need to snip the white wire so that way the front camera isn't going to be mirrored. And then if you guys do want to get rid of the lines, you guys will need to snip the green wire. All right, now we are all done, so let's go ahead and show you guys what it looks like. So we'll flip the truck on 2 times. Okay, so we got power. All right, so everything runs normally just like before. We'll come down here, we'll flip the front camera on, and we got the front view. So what you guys are seeing, the flickering, that isn't seen when you guys are in person. That is just the camera settings. So we'll flip the rear on. Okay, there's the rear. I'll show you guys the neutral as well, right in the middle. Okay, back to normal. And then probably the most important one, test your reverse. Pop that in reverse, and reverse comes on. So when you guys are driving, so if you guys are in drive, you can flip either one on, which is probably the coolest feature. So there's the front, and we are in drive, and then we'll flip it in rear, and there's the rear. So pretty awesome feature. This is going to be super cool for, you know, daily driving on road, and then really good when you guys are off road, so that way you guys can see in front of you, especially if you guys don't have a spotter. This is really nice. You guys can see there are the lines, so you guys can kind of guide where your tires are and put your tire placement where you need to be when you guys are off-roading and you guys don't have a spotter. So one of our favorite modifications for the Toyota trucks. All right guys, that is gonna be it for this video. Hopefully you guys find it helpful if you guys have purchased this modifications, especially if you guys have gotten it from runningfortacos.com. You guys support us in the channel when you guys shop with us, so we really appreciate that. But that's gonna be it for this video, and we will see you guys next time. Peace.